like you could be more caring with your choice. Someone answered the phone, was speaking to their mom, and was like, "Fuck you, mom," and I was like, and I was like, "No."
Oh no, you didn't.
I was like, no. I almost like turned around and was like, no, you don't speak to your mother like that. Things like that when you're like, just, you know.
Oh shit, sorry.
That's Talia Sutra, and this is the Yoga Life podcast. Good day to you. How are you doing? I'm sitting here with my window open. Maybe you can hear the sounds of the dog next door or the pigeons on my roof. It's getting nice weather now, nice enough to keep the window open and let my clothes dry. Just some extra information for you there. I want to start off with a shout out to Vicky Lee Lawler. So hopefully she doesn't mind me mentioning her name. Vicky's a listener of the podcast, also a friend and fellow yogi. You can follow her on Instagram, Yoga by Vicky Lee. And Vicky is responsible for this podcast happening with Talia, because I asked the listeners, who would you like to hear on the podcast? And Vicky brought Talia to my attention that she was coming over to Dublin to teach a backbending workshop. I was familiar with Talia from the classes she does on Allo Moves, because I like Allo, sometimes I use them. And I went along to Talia's workshop. She's incredibly flexible. She's studied ballet in the past, and it was pretty challenging. But I went down to South Dublin. See, I live in the north, and I also shout to Lucy Bloom. There's loads of shout outs today, because Lucy helped to host this podcast with Talia, and we recorded the episode in Lucy's apartment. And it was great. It was really nice. There's a slight echo, but the main challenge, or the only challenge we had, was the little cat. So you're gonna hear on parts of this episode, one part in particular where I actually stopped the episode, take the cat, and put the cat in the bathroom. So humanely, because the cat was kind of knocking things over. But yeah, it was great. I had a lot of fun with Talia. I'm not actually going to edit my episodes anymore, because unless there's a break, for some reason there's a long break, and to be considerate to the listener, you guys, I will chop things out that are dull. But I think it's important to keep in the... when I listen to a podcast, I like to hear what's going on in the background, and little things where I listen to Joe Rogan, he's pouring his coffee for his guest, and they're grabbing the cups and all that type of thing. It adds a bit of ambience or ambiance, if you want to be a bit French, to the podcast, and makes it more real. So with Talia, if you don't know about her already, Talia Sutra, she was first exposed to yoga at the age of 6. Her mother was diagnosed with cancer, and her mother got heavily involved in yoga, and that's how she first found it. And since then, she's been teaching. She teaches all over the world. She's just coming to the end of her European tour, and lucky for us, she came to Dublin. She's based in Tel Aviv. You can find her on taliasutrayoga.com. But yeah, it was a real fun one. It was very easy, relaxed. There's some bad language in it, but you know, like, we use bad language in life, don't we? When we say, we drop the F-bomb sometimes, you know, and sometimes it's quite funny, you know, and I think it's important to have a laugh and be a little bit silly sometimes, and not always be too serious and worry about what other people think of us, you know. So before we begin, this microphone I'm speaking into, this pop filter, this microphone stand, the software I use to edit the podcast, the publishing software, it wasn't free, but I'm lucky enough to have some sponsors that I want to mention to you now. because that's how it works. You mention the sponsor, you like their gear, you check it out, you get a discount, everyone's happy. The first one is Apparel. Now, I'm guilty of buying my clothing in the past in other establishments that where you can buy a shirt, for example, for €12. But what you'll notice happen is that shirt, that t-shirt quickly becomes a crop top. And although I've got, a reasonably aesthetically pleasing belly button, I don't want to be showing off my tummy to the public, particularly to people in class. And if you buy cheap clothing, it's not going to last. It doesn't wash well. It looks rubbish after a few months. So then you find that you have a wardrobe, which I do, full of clothes that you never wear because they're not bad enough to throw out, but they're not good enough to put on. And it just creates a big mess. So the key is buy quality. And if you can, when you buy quality, help to do your bit for the environment. This is where Apparel come in. So Apparel, they've actually just released their spring collection. I'm looking through it here. There's some pinks or equinox. There's some atomic or atom shorts as well. So have just released their spring apparel, their spring collection, and it's eco-friendly clothing that is designed for men to look good while they do yoga, but also while they do other activities, such as like I wear my Voyager trousers if I'm climbing, and it's nice because then you can wear that when you're doing activities where you're not getting massively sweaty, and you can just go out afterwards and go about your day without looking like a hobo. So if you would like to purchase from go to om.com/the Yoga Life podcast, as in the name of this podcast. And if you type in the promo code Kevin at checkout, you get 15% off all items apart from clearance items. So that includes your spring collection. You can get all your gear. So it's not just one item, it's as many items as you like, 15% off with that promo code Kevin. My next and other sponsor are 108 Asana Yoga Sequencing Cards by Yogaroo. As I mentioned before, it can be such a challenge to plan a class. And I know that because I'm now going to be teaching or leading a teacher training, co-leading a teacher training. And I know that people get so flustered when they have to plan a class. And really, what you teach comes from what you practice yourself. It can be quite easy to not have a structure and just make it up as you go along. But that's not going to fly when you're teaching a class. And also, when you're teaching, you should know, ideally, the anatomy cues. You should know the Sanskrit, if needs be. And this is the way 108 Asana Yoga Sequencing cards come in, because they give you a deck of cards that you can take anywhere with you to plan your classes and your home practice. If you go to yogaroo.ie and you put in the promo code Kevin, you get 10% off. Once again, that's yogaroo.ie, promo code Kevin for 10% off. Boom shakalak. All right, that's a 90s reference. I'll show my age there. So that's it, guys. I hope you really enjoyed, guys. Went a bit Dutch there. Hope you enjoy this podcast. And if you really love it, you know what? The best way to tell people about it is to share it on your Instagram stories. So just repost my post and share it ideally from Spotify. Most people have Spotify. So share your Spotify post on your stories. Tag me or tag Kevin Boy Yoga. And I'd be mucho grateful for that, because it's all about spreading the word and getting it out there. So thanks again. Hope you enjoy. Hey, Talia.
Hey.
Hey,
Kevin.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm so happy to be here.
Where are we?
We're in Dublin at beautiful Lucy's apartment, who's hosting me for today and tomorrow. And I just arrived from London. I've been in London for about 10 days. My husband's family is based in London, so we're staying there. And I was teaching last weekend. I had 3 classes I taught in London that were so beautiful, and this is my first time sort of making my way across to Ireland.
First time in Ireland ever.
Yes, first time.
Sorry about the weather.
I actually find it really beautiful and romantic. Maybe because, coming from Tel Aviv, where it's like usually always like sunny and bright, there's something kind of magical about the weather here, and it's similar to the way it is in London too.
Yeah, I think that it's good to have seasons.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that you actually appreciate that time is passing.
Yeah, it gets you connected with the cycles and the shifts and tides, that are external, internal. I think it's good. Yeah, I agree.
And even if you were to say live somewhere like California, I mean, yes, it sounds really nice and because it's always hot, but nature is, I mean, like it doesn't seem like a great place to live long term now because of the fires and stuff, I'm getting heavy straight away. Yeah. So celebrate the rain, peeps. But yeah, welcome to Dublin.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm actually not from Dublin. I'm from England. But you are from Israel, but you lived in the States for 7 years.
A little longer than that.
Okay.
So I moved to the United States when I was just about to start the 5th grade, and we moved as a part of a diplomatic mission. My dad was in politics in Israel, and he really wanted to kind of leave that world behind for good reasons. And instead of going deeper into that world, he agreed to take on a sort of diplomatic position in the United States, in New York. So we knew that we wouldn't, we weren't like moving for good to the US. We knew that it would be probably around 5 to 7 years, and that's how long we were there for, about 7 years with my family. So I moved back to Israel with my family when I was starting 11th grade, and I entered the American International School, so I continued with my American education. It was like a little bubble, American bubble, and it was nice because I met people from all over the world, diplomats from all over the world in that school. And when I graduated, I went back to New York, and and then I started my fine arts degree at School of Visual Arts, and I was there up until 3 years ago.
So you just moved back to Israel 3 years ago?
Yes, yeah. So I was in the U.S. I was in New York. I dropped out of art school when I decided that I had to teach yoga.
I have to.
Yeah.
You were compelled.
Yeah, I know. I knew it had to be like I couldn't not do it. So it was like not even like, yeah, I think I'll do this. It was like, I have to do this. So I dropped out of art school because it became very clear to me. And I was teaching yoga, and I think eventually, I think, and maybe like 5 years ago is when I started to travel around a little bit more. But my base was always in New York. And then I moved 3 years ago when I met Ezra. Ezra is English.
That's your husband?
My husband, yes.
You're married?
I'm married.
Not living in sin. You're married.
Yes, I am married. Still living in sin, but married. And he's English. We both happened to kind of cross paths somehow in Israel, and then I ended up there 3 years ago.
Okay. One second, I'm going to move the mic a little bit closer to your face. That's all right.
Yeah.
Cut that bit out. Sorry, I know it's right in your face. So now you're here for just the weekend, is it?
Yeah. So I'm here. I'm teaching 2 classes today, 2 workshops. And they do take up the whole day just because each one is 3 hours. So it ends up being like a full day thing. And then I'm flying back to London tomorrow morning.
So you got you seem very, do you mind asking what age you are?
Oh yeah, I'm 31.
Wow, you look a lot younger. You do, you really do. So well done on that. But you're young. I'm 37, so 31 is young. You got a young child and a husband, and you live in Israel. Because I think that you clearly have a large following on Instagram, And I think that a bit like Bryony Smythe, people, particularly women, find it quite inspiring when they see a woman who is doing something she really loves. She's independent, she's self-employed, and has a child, and is making that work. But so that's what we see. But what would you say for you is the biggest challenges living the lifestyle you're living?
Well, the challenge is balance of, balancing being with my family, being with myself, and being sharing and teaching, which is my passion. And like I said, I have to do it. I knew I had to do it 10 years ago, and I'm still living that truth every day. So it can be, it's like you said about the seasons. There have definitely been times when I was going through a stormy sort of internal atmosphere with my family and not knowing when it will pass. Sometimes we are going through a storm and we're not really exactly sure if it's ever going to pass. And it all does. The spring, to use that same metaphor, the spring passes too and the summer passes too. So they are all connected. So all of these challenges I am open to. I guess I have challenges just like everyone else, but I think I am open to having them. I don't expect to have a challenge-free life, because that would not only be very dull, it would also make me a lot less compassionate towards myself and towards others. I would have, living a challenge-free life would literally make me I wouldn't be able to relate to anyone, and I wouldn't have anything to share. Yeah. So I welcome challenges, and I think that they give my life a whole lot of depth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of challenges, I researching about you, learning about you before we've met. I saw a video with you and your mother. She was speaking Israeli?
Hebrew.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, but it's true, because Hebrew is an ancient language. It's as ancient as Sanskrit. It's the only language really from the ancient world that is used today as a spoken language. So that is pretty special.
The cat is on you.
Yes, the cat is on me.
We have a cat here, and now the cat is on Talia's shoulder. And now the cat's going to go to the radiator. I'm going to give full commentary. Yeah. So now you're safe. Yes. You can adjust the mic just a little bit just to turn it back to the actual thing itself. There you go. Yes. All right. So you started yoga when you were 6 weeks old. No, when you were
6 days. Come on, 6 days old.
Get on your mat, guys. No excuses.
Thought you did the research. No, my mom was diagnosed with lymphoma when I was 6 years old. And like I said, my dad was in a sort of public position. He was a mayor of the town where I was born. And my mom, having, I think by the time she was my age, she already had 4 kids.
Whoa.
Yeah. And she's she's incredible. I speak very often on how she's a naturally present, positive, glowing person. She's always been that way, but I think she's also the kind of person who's so strong that even if something maybe is a little difficult, she doesn't know how to say, hey, I need a break, like this is too much. And I think the cancer was really an accumulation of like, yes, you're strong, you're positive, you're present, but you also need to learn how to like say no. And like, I need a break, and I need to acknowledge some of the feelings, some of the challenges that are in my life, because it doesn't matter how awakened you are to the magic of everyday life as she is and always has been. I think what she struggled with when I was young is really saying, I'm having a hard time too. I can be happy and have also kind of a hard time. So
that's okay. Yeah. How would you say? Because did she start yoga because of the cancer?
Yes. So once she was diagnosed with cancer, I think she was really shocked. And I think she immediately accepted it. Like I said, she has such a gift that she's naturally very illuminated and awakened as a person. She never once said, "Oh my God, why me?" or "How could this happen? I'm so like, I live my life with so much awareness, with I'm healthy. How could this happen to me?" She immediately accepted it, and she told us about it. I was 6 years old. I have 3 brothers. She told us all about it, and she was very honest, very clear. I remember really being a part of it.
Sorry, Talia, just adjust your mic for a sec. Back.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So she was very honest and clear from the beginning, and she essentially changed her lifestyle accordingly. She started staying at home much more, meditating, getting books on anything from the chakra system to breath and yoga asanas, and going to hatha yoga classes. This was 25 years ago, so it was very different, especially in Israel. I mean, not to say that there aren't wonderful yogis that come out of Israel. There are, but it wasn't like we were in, Santa Monica or something. We were living in a small town in Israel, in northern Israel, and we were, and my mom started going to these hatha yoga classes. I was clear. I mean, when your mom may go to yoga classes, maybe it captures your attention for a little bit. But my mom I was always so close to her, and she was dying. So obviously everything she did, it made me very present. When death comes into your life, you become aware of life a lot more, of like little things, eating together, holding hands. Everything became really saturated because my mom was dying. Her hair was falling off. She became thin. She became pale. She was at hospitals a lot. I remember having to get like a lot of vaccinations because her immune system was so low that her kids, and anyone she was around couldn't risk getting sick at all. So I constantly had to have all these vaccinations to make sure that I wouldn't make her sick because she was very weak. So there were a lot of things stay with me, but what I really loved is that she was always like so open with me. We would have conversations on how I was feeling, how she was feeling. I went with her to her treatments at the hospital, and I went with her to some of the yoga classes, and she recovered and then got sick again almost immediately afterwards. So it was about 4 years, from 6 until I was about 10 and a half, that she was quite sick, and practicing yoga. And so I think when I think about how yoga came into my life, it's definitely through her, and it's definitely at that time. It's not necessarily that I was, doing headstands every morning when I woke up, but the yoga practice is much more, that we all know is much more than just a physical asana. What I learned from her, yes, were a lot of physical postures and even the power of taking a deep breath. But more than that, it was a true and full acceptance of the moment as it is, and also a deep sense of gratitude, compassion, and love, which stayed with me and drives me every day, is to really have a full spectrum compassion for yourself and for all beings, and to appreciate each moment as it is. I think that when you have an experience coming close to death or with death, it can be actually a very life-affirming experience, as it was for me and my family.
How do you think physiologically yoga can help someone maybe helped your mother? Do you think that it's almost like the placebo effect of, I shouldn't be hard on myself, I should be soft on myself, and understand that I can heal within, and maybe, I don't know what she did to get better, but did she explore Western medicine at all? And did she play around with both?
Yeah, she had both. She definitely...
And she got chemo, you said?
Yes, yeah, she had chemo, she had all the treatments at the hospital. Also, lymphoma 25 years ago was treated way more harshly than it is now. So
what is lymphoma? Sorry.
Lymphoma it's a cancer of the lymph nodes.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the treatments were quite harsh. Whereas like I think now it would have been a little different, but it was very, very harsh chemotherapy. And I mean, for her, I think she's very connected with her body, and it felt a lot of times it felt like poison. I remember the treatments at the hospital. It wasn't even the cancer itself. It was like the treatments that would make her feel disconnected from her body, and almost like there was like poison, something foreign running through it. And the yoga, and also just in general, mindfulness practice, being mindful of everything, brought her back home, brought her back to her body. It's like I said, she knew the effect of a few deep breaths. And she knew the importance of taking some time every day to move in her body. I think that asanas are an incredible practice because they give us a physical experience, where that's not always the case with every. I think for me, it's not enough to just have an intellectual understanding of something. I think the realization part is quite almost a physical experience. It happens in your whole self. And I think asana is a great tool to really appreciate that we can't just take anyone's word for it or just understand things just in our thinking mind, but really to experience liberation as it happens in the moment, that epiphany of freedom that happens in the body. And so I think, for her, I can't speak for her, but I think what it was it made her feel more free. When you feel that something is happening to you that is out in your own body, that is out of your control, I think asana and mindfulness in general gave her a feeling of coming back to herself and to feel that she was back home, to feel that she had some sort of connection to herself. And I think that's what also helped her never feel like a victim in her life. She never had a victim mindset. She went on, while she was very sick, she would go and visit cancer patients. She was a cancer patient herself. She would go and visit other cancer patients. She started writing in the newspaper weekly inspirational pieces on using mindfulness techniques, helping people. Small things about breathing, about movement, about taking time to be very present. She did all that 25 years ago. I mean, it's like the equivalent of like the little Instagram captions she did in the local newspaper. It's very, very beautiful. And then she started a nonprofit organization to help cancer patients. She did a lot while she was sick. She actually, and so for me, again, that is the power of yoga, is that someone could have been completely identified with the illness, completely believe that this now makes them a victim to life, and she went completely the other way, where she became more illuminated than ever. And she did heal. By the time we left the US, she was healed, and she still, she has to get a checkup. I think every 6 months she's at the hospital to get checked out again, and so it's always a part of her life now. But she's, she's still practicing, and she's still glowy, and she's still happy, and we're going to celebrate her 60th birthday in July.
Oh, nice. That's great. But I think the power of breath cannot be underestimated. I mean, I was listening to Wim Hof on the Russell Brand podcast just last week, and he was saying how Wim Hof was injected with a bacteria. There was some university in America, so the doctors actually studied him, and he was injected with this bacteria, and then they studied how through breathing he was able to generate antibodies to fight off the bacteria. And not just him, they did it for other people as well. So it just shows you that don't have to be some demigod to do it. Anyone can do it, and breath is incredibly powerful. When I interviewed Max Strom, he wrote A Life Worth Breathing, he said that men who are married are far less likely to die of things like coronary diseases than men that are single. And I think being loved and loving yourself, and that sounds a bit cheesy, but showing yourself compassion can go a long way, and not feeling like you are a victim. And I think that's really the message that we should get across about yoga, is that yes, it is nice to do physically impressive things and to push yourself and to challenge yourself physically, but it's a mind state, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think also it's the realization and experience that mind, body, breath are one. They're interconnected, and not just that. I like the word that Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh uses, which is interbeing. So we are all, you cannot be alone. Mm-hmm. Actually, our states of, whether it is a state of happiness and fulfillment or a state of dissatisfaction, is always going to be connected to everything and all life, to everyone else. Mm-hmm. So if you're happy, that happiness cannot be complete if someone else next to you is suffering, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Especially when you're witnessing that. You could be having really a wonderful, aligned life, but if your brother, sister, mother, best friend is going through a really hard time, how could you be, you cannot be elated always, because that's going to be on your mind. It's going to be on your body. You're going to feel that. You want to be able to help probably your family or your friend, and it keeps extending. Mm-hmm. So we as humans are connected to each other, and we are also connected to the animal world, to the rest of the animal world, and we're connected to all life. And when the environment suffers, when animals suffer, when other humans across the world are suffering, that also lives in us. Mm-hmm. So I think, as you were saying, yes, you can have an experience in the yoga room. You're challenging yourself. You're facing some sort of fear. Maybe you're deciding that you can finally take a little kick up off the floor and get some weight on your hands. And that can be a moment that is quite intense for people, to turn themselves upside down or to believe that they too can try something like this. It can be a confrontation of fear, and also we can begin to notice in an asana class how we react, how we're wired. Are we reacting with panic or anxiety? And that will be translated to situations outside that put us outside of our comfort zone. But for me, it's like way beyond that. So our mind, body, breath, spirit, everything is connected. All is one. And beyond that, outside of ourselves, everyone we meet is a reflection of ourselves. And really, we're seeing ourselves in everyone. If we're really focusing, we can really connect with a tree. We can really connect with flowers. We connect with every part of life around us in a really deep way, and really see ourselves reflected back. Mm-hmm. So I think yoga has that seed of that experience of self-reflection. You can get that from just an asana class, and it can grow. Mm-hmm. It can continue growing with you as you practice to really deep, meaningful experiences where you actually experience, not just understand maybe in your thoughts, but really experience the oneness of life.
But I think that the way you talked about mind, body, breath being connected, and us being connected as people and nature, I think that now we live way more individualistic lifestyles. Because if I'm walking down the street, I want to know how to get to somewhere. I just look on my phone, and I'm not dissing technology. I love technology. Obviously, we're using technology now. But I don't have to stop and talk to someone. So the more convenience we have is great, but it means the more independent we are, and therefore sometimes the more alone we feel. And I think that's, as you said, yoga is the connection to other people. I wanted to talk to you about something quite specific, actually, which is an unusual thing you said in a different podcast. And The cat is in the
Can
back.
you hear her?
Can you? Yeah. I had to put the cat in the bathroom. I did it humanely. You're witness,
Yes.
didn't I?
Yes.
And now the cat is meowing. But
Yeah.
you know, it's either that or the cat's knocking stuff over. But I wanted to talk to you about something. You mentioned how when you came back to Israel from the States, you were studying ballet in the States, and then you came back and you were resistant to doing ballet or dance in Israel. Mm-hmm. And then you went through a period of darkness. Mm-hmm. You started smoking, you stopped moving. But then you said something interesting, that you enjoyed the darkness. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think I was like 16 or 17 years old, and I think a large part of me also wanted to have an experience that was different than what I had so far with myself. So I think I was going through a hard time because I had a very strong discipline from the time I was 11 years old until I was 17. I was very, very committed to dance and really saw myself not just in the future, but in everyday life. I gave everything I had to that discipline. And when we moved back to Israel, something in me like just kind of snapped, and I allowed myself, I kind of allowed myself to become very resistant to what is. I think I'm saying that I allowed it because I think I was very aware of the voice that was saying, accept it, this is where you're at now. It's all happening for the good. Accept it, but I didn't want to. It's like I wanted to rebel, and I wanted to not have a good time, and I wanted to enter this darkness, and so that's what happened. And I'm just being honest because I know that may not be everyone's experience, but I think for me it really was a choice. And it was a choice that I maintained for a while. Yes, I wanted that, I kind of wanted to, I think I had to get it out of my system, to have that experience, because like I said, from a young age I was around positivity and mindfulness and meditation, and I have very supportive parents. They trusted me always. I made my own decisions from a young age, which schools I would go to, how I would organize my day, what I do with my time. It was all completely 100% full trust. So it really was a choice. It was a choice to be essentially giving everything around me the middle finger, and it was very different. I think it was kind of even for my mom, who's very patient and very supportive, I think even for her it was a very she was what's going on with you? It was very hard for her. But I think it's something, like I said, that it was a choice for me, and I think that it probably allowed me to the return to movement and yoga for me, because when I went into art school I definitely continued with that approach. I didn't really move around very much. I definitely experimented with a lot of drugs, with not treating my body the way I would now, certainly not. And so I think it gave me, when I did choose to walk away from that, because it was a choice, and then after a couple of years it becomes a pattern that becomes hard to break. So if you made a choice at first, my first choice to just start smoking, I didn't enjoy it, but I just wanted to be that character. It was like an ego that we take on. I wanted to identify with a certain type of people, and
it's like Sandy in Greece when she wears leather.
Yes, exactly.
Tell me about it, stud, all that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So I suddenly became this different person, but after a while you really forget that it wasn't really you. And but it did make the choice to break free from that down the line when I was around 20 or 21, and I started going to yoga to the people, to the studio that I was living next to, it felt like a really amazing taking all that off, and being like, okay, thank you, but no thank you. I don't need to be this person anymore. Like, thank you for the experience, but I'm done with that now,
But as you said earlier, it probably showed you, or gives you an ability to have more compassion for someone that comes to your class and feels a bit intimidated, who smokes a lot, doesn't move, and you go, oh, I know what that feels like. I know what it feels like to be stuck. And I think that it just gives you that greater sense of understanding. Yeah,
I think so. I'm being very honest when I say, like, I have been through a lot, especially in the time right before my sort of rediscovery or like realignment with my body and with yoga practice. There really was such so many choices that I made that at the time were dark and very questionable, and sometimes I'm like, I can't even believe, I don't know what was guarding over me that like I made it, but I definitely allowed myself to go down paths that I wouldn't recommend others. And I'm also like amazed that even people who, because I grew up, like I said, with really supportive parents, really beautiful environment, I was privileged, and I still went down a path that, doesn't make sense. The way that I was brought up, with so much love, with so much support, I really have like no complaints to my parents. They were really so great. And even like that, and even though I was so well educated, I was given really so many gifts, and still I was able to go to parts of myself and parts of others that are dark in a way that doesn't necessarily sync up. You're like, but why? Why would you do that? So I definitely can relate to the choice, because I do believe that in some way, and I don't want to be insensitive, because I know that a lot of people struggle with addiction or depression or some sort of mental health issue. But I have to say that my experience has been that I had a choice.
That is such an important point, because I too have loving parents. My mum is like classic Irish mammy, do everything for you. But I took loads of drugs in my 20s, not because I was hurting or I was trying to heal something, but because it was fun. And therefore, again, like you said, I want to be sensitive to people that do take any drug, whatever it is, because they're trying to heal trauma. But some people also experiment, go onto the dark side, for want of a better word, because they want to see what it's like and to enjoy themselves. and as you said, I think it's important to sometimes experience that and have that life experience that can make you a better person or maybe a more well-balanced person. If you're always goody two-shoes your whole life, you don't have as much life experience, I believe. So Talia, I know you're a busy lady, and I got you're familiar with Larry King?
Yes.
The man himself.
Yes.
He's like about 185 now.
Still going.
Still doing it though.
Yeah.
So I have some quickfire Larry King questions. So I could pretend they're mine, but they're not. I just took them off him because I really like him. So these quickfire questions, I won't respond. So I'll give the question, you give the answer, and we just work through them. You ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's do this. What's your favorite city and why?
New York. That's the first thing that comes to mind, because it's the only city that I feel is actually a city. I was just in London, and I feel like...
Steady now. Steady, I'm from London.
I know, I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, it's not a city. Newsflash, it's not a city. It's like 6 cities kind of mixed together, but not even. It's like 6 suburbs all connected around a tiny little piece that maybe can be called a city, like city center in London. Yes, that's the city. But then they include like giant like suburbs. Yeah. It's like a part of London, and it's so confusing to me. Yeah. So New York City is a city.
Okay, all right. Do you know, I'm not supposed to respond, so, but in fact, I believe London it may even be a town because you hear London Town.
London Town, yeah, you're right.
There's a few songs called London Town.
That's true.
So maybe you're right. So I'll move on to the next one. What's your first ever job? Where you were paid to do something, essentially.
Let's see. I think I was a babysitter.
Okay.
Yeah, babysitter. My neighbor on 72nd. I lived on 72nd Street with my parents in New York, Upper East Side, and I babysat for my neighbors. The little boy was called Lee, and he was very cute. And we build Legos together, things like that. It was really fun.
Okay, cool. If there's one person you could take, or you could bring to lunch from history, dead or alive, who would it be?
I'd have to say like Buddha, right?
Oh, nice. Yeah, why not? What's your most memorable career moment? Are you comfortable with the word career?
Yeah, my life, it's like...
Okay, life moment.
Yeah.
But involved in yoga.
Yeah, the thing is that like everything I do is I don't even want to call it job, you know? 'Cause,
I know what you mean.
But it's like it's all connected for me. It's not like I have like a 9 to 5 and then like I'm done, you know, and like see you later, or like I work like Monday through Friday. You know, I'm always doing what I love. But I have to say that after I've completed my teacher training, I was honestly feeling so... The first classes that I taught, probably the first 100 that I taught, were so incredibly difficult. It was so hard for me I always used my body to express myself, always. Not so much my words, although I enjoyed writing a lot. I was never like a public speaker, you know. I was much more of like a sort of wallflower kind of person, and then I would somehow come to life as a performer. But I found it very hard to speak in front of people, especially if I wasn't some sort of character. Just being myself and talking to people was really, really hard, and I would feel very unworthy, extremely unworthy of being a yoga teacher. But at the same time, like I said, it was like a burning feeling in my body that I knew I had to do this. So the thing that stands out the most is finally, I think one day after so many classes of afterwards, like just crying and like speaking to my friends and my mom.
You were crying?
Oh yes, yeah. I would just teach a class and right afterwards like run into like the dressing room and like wait for everyone to leave and like just break down because so much was teaching. Literally, like I could feel like years of lies, like identifications, like it was like they were like being like sweated out, you know. They were like all these things that were not true were coming out of me, and it was a really hard process. So I would say the beginning, like the transition from not teaching to teaching and being very secure in my voice, that really stands out as the hugest thing. Like that transformation to being okay with who I am, and really accepting that, like that was a huge thing.
Oh, that's cool, nice. You're a very pleasant person. I've only known you for an hour, but what's your biggest pet peeve?
Anything that's lazy or like not present. You know, if someone is not caring about other people and other spaces, like if I sometimes if I walk down the street, and I've always lived in cities, you know, but I still get like annoyed if someone is like spitting on the floor or like throwing cigarettes on the floor, like things like that. Any sort of like something that people do that is not caring in like a really kind of aggressive way. Throwing trash in the floor, like making, or like, you know, if someone is, if I'm, like yesterday I took the bus from the airport to here, and almost all around me conversations were just full of like I can't believe she was like this, and it's just like, so like anything that's kind of like not like you could be more caring with your choice. Someone answered the phone, was speaking to their mom, and was like, "Fuck you, mom," and I was like, and I was like, no.
Oh no, you didn't.
I was like, no. I almost like turned around and was like, no, you don't speak to your mother like that. Things like that when you're like just,
Oh shit, sorry. Okay, no, I wasn't expecting that. Yeah. I remember I told my mum to fuck off once, and I was like, she got Irish mums would do the wooden spoon. It's a thing, it's like, like a wooden spoon. I don't know what they do in Israel, but old school Irish mums like to give you a little whack with the wooden spoon. So if I heard when I said fuck off to my mum, the wooden spoon drawer I heard it rattle, and I thought, no, I ain't doing that again. So, don't tell your mum to fuck off, folks.
No, don't do that. You know wooden spoon or not, that's not okay.
Exactly. Okay, this is a good one. I got 3 more, by the way, 3 more questions. If you could travel back in time to when you were 18 and you had a minute with yourself, what is the one piece of advice you'd give?
I say you don't have to run away so much. It's just, I would say, if I had a minute, I would just say, slow down, take it easy, and you're okay. You're okay. You're okay right now. So I don't know, because also I'm thinking of like 18-year-old self. It's not like I would be like, you have to be careful what you're saying to an 18-year-old. Certainly with me, I was like, I told you, I made a choice that I was going to be very edgy and like, I wasn't easy to speak to. I think I would just say, hey, slow down, and you're okay, take it easy, and that's it. I appreciate all the experiences I've had. So I don't know if I would like want to be like, hey, like, stop what you're doing completely. I'd just be like, just slow down a bit, okay?
Yeah.
Just like, because I think that's really important. I think sometimes when you're young, you really get lost in this constant, like, hectic energy, and it's hard to remember to just be still, to feel yourself again, to come back to yourself again. So, yeah.
Perfect. This is a really good one. I'm saying this is a really good one. Actually, they're not my questions. I'm not complimenting myself on my questions. They're straight from Larry King. I hope I don't get sued for this. Things we get wrong about you, or people get wrong about you. So then when they meet you, they're like, oh.
Well, I'm quite short, so when people meet me, they're always like, oh, you look way longer in your photos, but I'm about like 5'1.5" or 5'2". I think it depends on the day. But I'm quite small, not very big. So people, when they meet me, are shocked that I'm quite small. And then besides that, I think people have this. I don't know where this comes from, but this expectation that my classes are going to be like, okay, let's start with 5 handstand scorpions. Like, that's never going to happen, So, like, they're actually also really surprised at how they feel during my class, and that I really tend to be quite, I think from what I've heard from people, they feel they don't even know what happened, but it felt really great on their bodies. And I think like that's something that a lot of people think you have to be advanced, and I'm using like quotations here, because I don't even know what that word is, like, so easy to manipulate.
So true.
Yeah, but I really think I teach for everyone, and that's something that maybe people get wrong.
Nice. Last question. Sad. If you weren't a yoga teacher, what would you be?
Well, I did go to art school, and I do enjoy making things. I used to really, when I was at art school, what I like to do is I know this might be really shocking, but I was really interested in myself. And so I did a lot of self-portraits. So I was always documenting. I still do that with Instagram, which is really fun. I like to document my life and my practice. I did a lot of that using cameras. Even back in high school, I used to really document my face and like just things I was doing. So I would probably be doing something in the realm of visual arts, although I always connected it also with cameras. I was also an actress for a while, so I studied some acting, and I did a little bit of acting growing up. So probably something that had to do with expressing myself through visual arts, and then maybe as well something to do with camera. I was always very into both being in front of cameras and also being behind them. I really enjoy also capturing and recording others.
Brilliant answer. Talia Sutra, thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin.
Hey!
Thank you. That was wonderful. Really fun.
Boom. There we go. Many lols with Talia. Lovely person. Hopefully she comes over to Dublin again very, very soon. Right. So, last but most definitely not least, just a few little things. First is apparel. Spring is sprung. Summer is coming up. Get yourself some shirts, some shorts, maybe some Dharma pants. 15% off when you use the promo code Kevin at your checkout. So that's 15% off all goods apart from clearance items. And you can get yourself looking a bit dapper, whether you're a fella or you know a fella. You'd like to spruce up a little bit. Also, if you'd like to support the podcast directly, you can visit kevinboyleyoga.ie /support the Yoga Life podcast. You can choose your amount, how many times you'd like to not donate, but you're supporting. You are. I love to do this, but it takes a lot of time, and I hope that if you find value from it, you would exchange energy with me in the form of money, because that's an exchange of value and time, isn't it? And time is all we have in life. Although some people say time is an illusion, so I don't know who to believe. But either way, it would be much appreciated by me, and I'd be your friend forever and ever and ever. If you don't want to do that, I won't begrudge you. It'd be great if you could share this podcast with a friend, someone you love, someone you care about, or share it with the world, the IG world, on your Instagram stories. Best way to listen to it, I think, is through Spotify. They make it so easy just to scroll through episodes. Last but definitely not least, events, workshops, retreats. So my next workshop is sold out. Woohoo! And the one after that is in May, when I come back from Bali. Just drop that in there. I'm doing another handstand workshop in Junction 6, which is in Dublin, Castleknock, in Yoga Hub. So that's end of May. You can go onto MindBody, search for Yoga Hub under Junction 6, and you can book in there. It's just gone live, so the spaces are available. I've got a retreat coming up. Whoa! I'm going to be publishing the tickets next week, so that's going to be end of March, and it's going to be in Wicklow, which is the Garden of Ireland. My mum's from Wicklow, actually, and I've been to this retreat centre before as a guest. It's lovely, hot tubs, hill walks, mindfulness, yoga, and that's going to be in September, middle of September, and tickets coming soon. You can keep an eye on, if you follow me on Instagram, kevinboyleyoga, that's the best way to keep up to date. But all retreat information will be on kevinboyleyoga.ie /retreats when I post it. As always, thank you so much for everyone. You listening wherever you are, cooking, I was going to say cooking dishes, doing the dishes, or driving your car or bicycle. Even though don't use headphones if you're driving a bicycle, because it's dangerous. And I do it myself. But anyway, look after yourself. I need you to be alive, and I appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you next week And I know I do a lot of talking, but I'd love to hear from you. If you would like to have a guest on the podcast you'd like to hear more from, please let me know. Any questions, send them my way. Have a powerful week. Catch up soon.